Hello, welcome back to Shiny Tree Trash. Today I'm going to share with you a guaranteed way to create a really successful monster knot. So stick around if you want to learn how to do it. Okay, so what we've got with us today is our regular cotton and our embroidery thread. We've already learned in a previous video how to thread our needles. Once we've threaded our needles, it's important before sewing that we have a really good knot at the end. So as you remember in the last video, we talked about the cotton that you might use on a sewing machine, or you might use it for tacking and sewing projects. So we're going to look at this one first. So we're going to begin by looking at the cotton. So traditionally, you might find yourself trying to just put a knot in by doing a regular knot, turning it on your finger, threading the end through and pulling it. And I've made a knot there, but you can barely see it, it's tiny, and that would just pull through your fabric. You may attempt to do it another couple of times like so, and it might land on top of the knot, or it may not. I'm going to do this 3 times just to show you what you may achieve, and I get something there that's reasonable, but quite possibly it could pull just through the fabric. So I'm going to show you what I like to call a monster knot. And the way I do this is by taking my finger, wrapping the cotton around my fingertip once. I roll it with my thumb. It starts to fall off the end, don't worry about that. You're just going to roll it continually side to side until you start to feel it form a bit of a ball. You pinch it with your thumbnail against the tip of your finger, and with your other hand you're just going to gently pull it until you can feel that it's formed a knot, and you get something that looks like this. You can cut that bit off the end. But there we have quite a substantial knot. I'm going to demonstrate that again. So you roll your cotton around your finger once. With your thumb you roll it. It'll come off the end of your finger, don't worry. You continue to roll it side to side. You then pinch it with your thumbnail against your fingertip. With your other hand you're going to pull on it gently. And wow, look at that, that is a proper good monster knot. There it is. Great big ball of a monster knot. That's not going to go through any fabric, so that's a proper winner. Okay, I'm going to just lay that down. So now we're going to look at our embroidery cotton. As you remember from our previous video, we did discuss that this is made up of 6 ends. Okay, normally with embroidery you would decide to split this down. So this is one that's already pre-split down into 3. So I'm going to work with this one right now. Okay, so with our embroidery cotton, traditionally what you might do, as we did with the cotton, is just loop it round and put a knot in it. So I'm doing this just for the purpose of being able to compare at the end when we do a monster knot. So we can barely see that, but there is a knot there. If it isn't big enough, you may repeat the process, looping it through to get another knot. May happen annoyingly, like it has for me, where you get 2 knots in 2 separate places. So there's one knot there, I think you can see it with my fingernail, and then another one there. So you might try a 3rd time, hoping that you might land on one of the knots you've already done to try and increase it in size. And I've actually got 3 knots all in separate places, but I'm just going to leave that because that might be the sort of problem that you've come across in the past, in which case my monster knot is going to be marvellous and you're going to love it because you're not going to have that problem. We're going to perform the monster knot in exactly the same way as we did with the cotton. So I'm going to just wrap that end around my fingertip once, like that. Roll it with your thumb. It falls off the end, don't worry about it. Continually rolling it side to side with your thumb until you start to feel it forming a ball. Pinch it, pull it. Wowzers, look at that bad boy. That's a proper big monster knot. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time on the other end. round. So this is a really quick way. You can do it really quick and you're pretty much guaranteed a success all the time. Sometimes you're not. In that case, don't worry about it. Just spend a bit more time rolling it, pinching it, pulling it. Job's a good one. There we go. So that's a really quick tip, how to get some really good monster knots that are guaranteed not to be pulled through your fabric when stitching. Okay, so we're going to just review what we've done, and I'm going to just remind you of the traditional way that I used to do my knots before discovering monster knots, and the way that you may be doing it currently. So there's my knot that I did with the cotton, and there's my 3 knots that I did in succession, unable to get them repeated over the same place. So I've got 3 random knots in the end of my embroidery cotton. Both would cause me a problem with sewing because it would just pull through the fabric. So I'm just going to show you the monster knots that we've achieved compared to the knots just by simply knotting the cottons. So you can see the monster knot is significantly bigger, it's stable, and it won't pull your fabric, so it's a proper winner. Sometimes this form of knotting isn't always suitable. For instance, if you're doing embroidery or some fine sewing work, you might not want to see a big monster knot, in which case it probably would look quite hideous. But we'll go into more detail as we expand on our sewing skills. We'll go into a bit more detail how we can capture our stitching and finishing it off without knots. But for now, that's monster knots. I hope you've enjoyed it. So there we have our monster knots. I've found these really successful in the past. They've always worked for me, so I hope it does the same for you. We'll be taking our Sewing for Newbies series into the next level by actually stitching, so I hope you can join me in the next video. Please like this video if you've found it useful, subscribe, and that will enable me to create more content. Follow, ding the bell, and you'll be notified of when new content is available, and please share the video if you think it would be helpful for somebody else you know, and we can help each other.